We live?
And we're live. Welcome back, everyone, to the HVAC 2.0 show. Got a little bit of a light crew tonight. Got Ronnie and T up top. Uh, how's everybody doing?
Good.
Pretty good here too.
Well, what do we have on the agenda to talk about tonight? We want
Let
to
me see.
start with something in particular or get into sharing some stories. I'm sure Ronnie has several.
Yeah, I have a
Well,
couple good
let me
ones.
see
Yeah.
what the agenda was, and then we can go into Ronnie's stories. Discuss clarifying how to explain the likely load range of the free quote process. Specifically, talk about current equipment size versus current equipment capacity. Replacing duct to avoiding the warranty if current duct doesn't support chosen equipment size, and level of due diligence available for house load if they opt for sizing to match the current ductwork. And Ronnie, you're selling a lot of this stuff. So probably, as well as talking to us about some of your projects and what your numbers look like, um, maybe you could talk to us about how you walk people through likely load range and how they're responded.
First of all, I'll interview them, go through everything, and then basically, some people respond pretty well to it. A few people, not so much. I'm trying to find a way to work through that, but
Well,
um,
give us an example of when they don't respond well. You're taking them through the
well,
interview process.
I'm talking about everything, talking about the size of their equipment, asking them if they're looking to change it, and some cases or keep it the same, and in some cases they're like, well, everything's been really comfortable, we don't know why we would change the size. And a little bit of that would be like, usually I have a little bit more ammunition, like if we have duct pressure, stuff like that, where I can basically like, well, with this old system PSC motor with a 1-inch water column, you're probably not performing at 5-ton capacity. We could actually, now that I have the True Flow grid, I can actually see what CFM they're actually um, running at. So if they have, like, say it's a 5-ton system operating at 1200 CFM, I just have to show them a way to understand what that means, and based on tonnage, what CFM or tonnage of cooling they're actually getting. So that's what I've been trying to work through that with. For instance, I had
You used that today, didn't you? Move
yeah, I
somebody
did.
from a 5-ton to a 4-ton. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, so I go to this guy's house, 3,700 square feet roughly, with a finished basement, um, 5-ton system, propane, air conditioner, um, and I'm talking to him. He said everything's comfortable, everything's been great. We're probably just going to want to go back with what we got. Um, and he's like, well, and it's zoned, and then I actually went through all of it and explained the way furnaces work, and explained the way his old system.
Zoning. Yeah.
You might
There
have
were
been
some
muted, but I know
expletives
what you
there that
said.
maybe we didn't want to hear.
Yeah, you definitely didn't want to hear that. No, my kid was in here yelling on the phone like hello, so I told him that I was on a meeting, and he looked at me all stupid, so I said something else to him.
No car for the rest of the week, you dumbass.
Yeah, but basically he was like, 5 tons been great. This house has zoning. He's got one zone that's like a 2-ton capacity, and then his other zone is a little over 2-ton capacity, but it's not quite. Um, well, I mean, I don't know. I
Did he
guess
have a
it's 4 ton.
bypass?
he did have a barometric bypass for sure. So, and I didn't go into a lot of that, and it was right before the main zone on, on the main trunk line there, right coming off about a foot off the plenum, I'd say is where they had it. This house did have dual side returns. So they did have that going for them. The furnace was sitting on the floor, but at least had dual side returns. So we are going to convert those to media filters and raise it on a box. And we're going to do a 2-stage gas furnace there. And then we're going to do a heat pump where you had an air conditioner before. And I had a little bit of help on the heat pump on this one for the simple fact that his dad has a hybrid system and he's liked it. So that after I started talking about heat pumps, he's like, I think my dad got a heat pump, and he's liked it. And he said it saved him a lot of propane.
Oh, okay.
So in this house, they don't have like a propane tank at their house. The neighborhood has like a big tank, and then they all have gas meters on their home, which I've never seen.
Wow.
Never seen it like that, but at least they don't have to get like their tank filled ever. They just have a meter. But
Right.
they said they had one gas bill on a really cold month that was like $800 or something.
So make them happy.
So, and then I started talking to them like, well, have you had any new appliances put in the house? And they said, well, we had a fireplace put in. And come to find out, they had put a natural gas fireplace in our house. And they figured it out because it was all sooted up and they were having trouble. And that's probably part of the reason.
Wrong burner orifice.
Wrong burner. Yeah, and they said, we told the fireplace people that this was propane, but I said, well, they probably didn't believe you because you had a gas meter in your house, because that's not a very common, situation.
You better flag that.
No, I did. I did flag it, and so I ordered the job with the LP kit,
Okay.
and I notated that it is propane like 6 times, and on the sales agreement and everything. So,
right.
Yeah, because
They
I was
threw
like,
up there in real trouble.
Oh yeah, real easy on that. So yeah, they're liable to go outside and see a gas meter on the house, but this ain't propane.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, I talked to him about it and showed him his duct sizing, and I did true flow on that and showed him that his airflow wasn't 5 ton, even with both zones calling full blast.
Did that true flow show him the capacity? No, that would be measure quick.
It
Right.
shows CFM though. Well, I couldn't test the outdoor unit. I couldn't run
Right.
the
Too cold.
outdoor unit. No, it was no charge in it. It blew the charge.
Oh,
It was dead in the water. The outdoor
that's why
unit
you're
was.
there.
That's why I was there. It was broken. So they said they had it charged a couple times the last couple years, just by some local guy that came and charged them up for cheap or whatever. And they were actually considering getting a quote from him. And then after talking to him, he was like, yeah, I don't know that they'd be good for like a big job like that. He said, I could trust them to add like some refrigerant, but when it comes to, he said, the guys I had over here doing, I really don't trust them to do it. And then if there's a problem, hopefully they answer the phone kind of thing. Because I've had a little trouble getting a hold of him anyway, just to fill it up. I said, and we need to pull a permit. That's pretty important too. So he's not licensed or anything. He may not be able to pull a permit. So they were going to get 2 other quotes. They didn't. They said, and we're actually installing this system tomorrow. We sold it at 6:00 today. So we're going to reuse their zoning. One other guy gave them a quote, and they were talking about having to replace all the zoning and all this and that, which Tom's not a bad idea. It's 17 years old, but if you want to keep it, I'm okay with that.
Plus he might be able to open it up. This might solve his zoning issues.
It might, yeah, because he's going to have a 2-speed. We're going to go from a 120 to an 80, and then we're going to go down to a 4-ton heat pump. So,
and that'll be 4 and 2.5, or what's
63%. So something like
So
that.
4 and 2.2 or something.
Yeah, so if the upstairs zone's calling, upstairs zone is about 800 CFM. I don't see that
Oh,
bypass
okay.
opening a ton.
Right. You
Hmm.
probably not use bypass much.
Which I think will be good because you won't just be wasting all that energy, just dumping it back in there, and
I mean, will that actually help dehumidification? Will that cause the coil to go colder?
dumping the cold air in there will cause the coil to go colder. Yeah, the barometric bypass would. Yep.
Okay.
I don't know if that's good though. I think that actually hurts capacity a little bit. It may help with dehumidification by doing so.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that making sense to you too, Tanner?
Yeah, it is.
Wow. So now we have an application for bypass when we used to hate them.
I'm not a big
Interesting.
fan of them, and again, I don't think it'll open very much.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, if it doesn't open very much, then
No, right.
yeah.
Not really happening.
yeah.
Yeah. Now, say for instance, the upstairs, say they put more than 2-3 degrees on that, and it calls for second stage heating, it may open then.
Okay.
But again, I don't see that happening very often on the upstairs. I don't see why they wouldn't be super comfortable with this new setup. It's going to be, I think it's going to be
That's
night
exciting.
and day.
So how was your month last month?
My month, I think it was like 236. I think my goal was like 108 or something.
Okay. And you're at how far are you this month?
That's a good question. I can't look with that. Maybe I can sign in on my phone and look.
Oh, I'm sorry. I interrupted you in the middle of the story. You were telling how you're walking the guy through
Oh, so I was
flow
walking,
grid and the true
yeah,
flow report, explaining
yeah.
to him.
I explained to him like the numbers and how many CFM per ton is, and this guy was a tool and die guy, so he like works at a company that manufactures like manufacturing equipment. So he
He has to
understands.
understand fluid flow.
He kind of understood that, and I explained everything to him, and I explained to him the benefits of these new ECM motors when they're installed properly at the right application. But at the same time, say we put the wrong furnace on that, then he's going to use more energy. It's going to perform at and it may cause humidity issues where he didn't used to have them.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted him to be aware of all that. And I said, now, if you want to go back with a 5-ton, I'm okay with that. I'm not telling you we have to do this.
Right.
But you potentially could have went to a 3-ton in that house and maybe kind of pushing it, but
particularly with zoning.
For sure. And I even told him that. I said, we potentially could even go down to a 3. I said, but you have a 4-ton duct system, and we go with a multi-speed unit, which is like $500 more than the standard on these hybrids.
Plus, he's got a 3,600 square foot house, so in the heating season, that 48,000 BTU might carry the whole house.
Yeah.
What'd you say? 12 degree design?
Yep. 12 degree. Yep.
Yeah. So maybe the propane comes on, below 15 degrees. He won't use any propane.
Well, he even brought that up. He was like, so the propane will come on at like 50 degrees or something. I'm like, no, more like probably 20 or 15 or somewhere a lot lower than that.
Or we can set it wherever you like because it might carry it.
Yeah. I've only had 5 opportunities this month so far. So
5 opportunities.
Yep.
And you're not including that shared sale with Austin. What do you got?
I'm at like 60 grand. 54
okay.
of it was today. 60% with an average ticket of 18,000.
Nice.
Nice.
Oh, Reedy's here. All right, we're gonna move Reedy up front because he's gonna bail on us to go to bed. And then you can tell us more about
5 a.m.
You can tell us more about your stuff. Reedy, we were talking a little bit about likely load range and how how to effectively communicate that not only to the homeowner, but also to new salespeople that are trying to get their heads around it.
Oh yeah.
So maybe what would you like to talk about? You want to talk about last month, how you did?
I'll just give a real general thing because the leads suck. But last month I did. I ended up. I'll talk about the month before and then last month, and I'll make it quick. The month before, I closed 90% of my leads, and that was awesome. But I only had like 11 of them, 10 of them.
So you sold 9 out of 11?
Yeah. So last month I had, I think I had 16 leads. I had a 59% rate, closing rate. The big thing,
duct cleanings or something?
yeah, it's just a bunch of that sort of thing.
Okay.
And old leads too, you know, that some of those there were some old leads that came in, but they haven't bought yet. I think they're going to buy probably this month. But my real big thing is the revenue per leads. I'm at 9,600, almost 9,700, 9692. And
that's great.
And that's what I'm excited about.
Does that make Diana pretty happy, or doesn't she recognize that metric?
I don't think I think she's just in coast mode.
Okay, so does she know how much her leads cost her?
I think she's heard that. I don't think she believes it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she doesn't believe in paying attention to how much each lead costs.
No, if you asked her, she'd tell you I'm a numbers person, but the reality is,
but not these numbers.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm a numbers person. I just choose to ignore said numbers.
Yeah.
Believe science like it's a religion. I'm religious about science, but I don't do any studying of science.
And it sounds like the leads you got are good leads. It's just there's not enough of them.
Well, some of them are good leads. Like I went to one the other day. The leads I've had so far, what is it? It's the fourth. So I've had three things she called leads this month. One was a duct cleaning, which, you know, it was for a rental property. That's not a good lead. The other one was for a old folks home tied to a house of someone, and they said they wanted mini splits. That could have been a good lead until they saw the price. And then the other lead was somebody wanted me to replace 500 square foot of insulation in their crawl space. So that's some of those leads are good. Some of them are like, you know, out of the 16 I had, I would say last month, I would say that probably 8 or 9 of them were good. Okay. So, you know, it is what it is. Here in the next couple of weeks, it's going to really pick up. It's a shame because I could be, if I had more leads, I could be, you know, right at pushing 2 million. Instead, I'm at 1.75.
Okay.
And you know, that's off of 188 leads. That's pretty doggone good.
And you got to move to Louisville. Ronnie just lost. They just lost a salesman who retired.
No, I can't do that. can't do that.
They need more preachers up here for sure too. So,
that's about all the stories I have for, you know, stories.
Okay, so when you're walking people through the free quote process,
yeah. So
are you following the old process, or are you moving things around and moving duct pressure to the bottom, or what's going on?
Well, I haven't had enough leads to answer that accurately.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah. So,
Right.
because like I say,
How do you hit that golf ball? I haven't hit it in a while.
three leads, and it's the fourth, and there's no equipment leads yet. The last we talked, I talked to you last week sometime, and I intend to when I get it, I intend to follow the way that you have listed. You have it listed in Slack, and
Okay.
yeah,
The
I intend to do that.
reordered way.
Yeah, because I think that makes the most sense.
Well, and then we're going to add the checklist down there to go with the signature for static.
hmm
So it'll be a signature. The salesperson offered to talk to you about all these things. And it's a yes or a no. And then it's notes.
Yeah, and I like I said, I like every single bit of that. What were you talking about the likely load range though? Tell me kind of.
Well, so I think one of the things that seems to be happening is people don't recognize that when you do a load calculation, there's a whole lot of stuff that you're guessing at. And so the things that you're guessing at, if instead of guessing at the middle, guess at the high and guess at the low, and then you're going to have a range.
Right.
And if you guess at the middle, then you're always wrong.
Right.
Whereas if you guess at the high and you guess at the low, then you're probably going to cover 95% of the homes out there. And so, like in this case, likely load range 20 to 75,000 BTU for green, yellow, and red, and so that's 55,000 BTU split three ways is about 20,000 BTU for each of those subcolors. So the green's probably 20 to 40, and then the yellow and red are 40 to 75.
Right.
And so you're able to say to people, look, if we were to do a good manual J on your house, we need to do 2 manual Js. We need to do 1 manual J, assuming that your house is really tight and well insulated, or we got to do another manual J where your house is really loose and poorly insulated.
Right.
And so that's what we would get here is this range. Now the problem is most ductwork in most houses is kind of sized small. So if you want to go with the assumption that your house is a piece of shit, you're going to probably need to change your ductwork out to piece of shit ductwork. We're going to need much bigger ductwork. Whereas if we lean towards the green here and assume your house is good, you might find that you have sufficient ductwork for that assumption.
Right.
And one of the things that we've found is even if you don't, the money you save on not replacing ductwork that you didn't need to replace and buying smaller equipment rather than larger equipment that probably is going to short cycle and be uncomfortable anyway. So you get the smaller equipment and it's matching up the ductwork. Now you don't burn through ECM blower motors. And if the house is uncomfortable, we'll fix the house.
Right.
All that money we saved you, that $10,000 to $20,000 you didn't have to spend on replacing ductwork, put some of that towards tightening the house up. Encapsulate the basement or encapsulate the attic, depending on whether your comfort issues are upstairs or downstairs.
Yep, I had one that we tested his house, and he was close to 1-to-1, but almost all of the leakage was upstairs where the addition was done, and it was the most uncomfortable room in the house. 35 pascals the master was upstairs. and it's like a 600 square foot master bedroom. Okay, it's like the whole upstairs of the house, Cape Cod, that was converted to one big master and a bath and a walk-in closet. And we cut a hole in the ceiling to see if we could get in the attic to see if anything could be done. And they literally had, the house was built at an angle. So what they did is they built like a flat roof across to keep the ceiling level instead of having like vaulted ceilings in there. And then they just kind of, you know, tried to blow some insulation around up there, but not really so much. And he didn't want to go through the trouble of fixing it. So we actually zoned his house and moved his furnace and his water heater and put new ductwork in. It was like $16,000 and reused his equipment because he didn't want to do nothing with the house. And he said it's been comfortable so far. So, and we got to go back and fix some ductwork we screwed up on because we didn't put it in the right spot. But, yeah, but that's a good example of what he's talking about. Like, people don't want to fix their house sometimes, and that's good for me if they don't, really. But whatever.
But if you give them options, so that's another thing we're going to talk about. We talked about today, Ronnie.
Yeah.
Is by giving people options and encouraging them to do. If you see an opportunity that's pretty clearly the best fit, and you offer it to them, and you communicate to them effectively about why you're encouraging it. If they opt out later on when they don't have all the smiley faces,
Yep.
you know, that is, you know, not my problem.
We didn't. No, it's not. We did install that zoning with no barometric bypass. We locked all the zonings into one where they can't close all the way. So there'll be a little bleed through all the time, but and the duct pressure is good. So with the new ductwork we put in.
Oh, and that guy, yeah. I was actually pivoting you to the folks that got the heat pump.
The
and
last
went with two-stage instead of.
Oh yeah, the people that had their gas line took out 2 months ago and haven't had heat all.
This is a good story, guys. I think you're gonna like this. You might want to start all the way back 2 months ago.
Yeah, so I got this service guy goes out 2 months ago, and they don't have heat. So he goes out and he's like, "Well, you don't have gas. Your gas is turned off or something." And they're like, "Well, we had the gas line took out, and the gas meter took off the house. The only thing gas in the house was the stove." And he's like, "No, this is a gas furnace." And it was a high efficiency gas furnace with like plastic pipes going right out the wall. 5 years old. They had an induction stove put in, $5,000 cooktop, nice one. They had an electric tankless water heater installed. 240 amp breakers on that guy, okay? And then all of this was on 100 amp service.
Oh,
so how's that even possible?
So these people are already
idea
buying stuff based on dumbasses on the internet or something.
And these are like, I mean, I don't want to judge their political standing, but I would say they're not Republicans. I mean, that's based on our conversation and everything. So that's how I'm going to put it.
Pretty delicate.
Yeah, well, they call me out there and they say, "Well, we're told we need to put an electric furnace in. We want to put an electric furnace in." I'm like, "Well, what about the air conditioner?" And they're like, "Well, the air conditioner's 5 years old. We're going to keep it." And I'm like, "Well, your electric bill is going to be like $600 a month in the wintertime." And they were like, "Well, electric's more efficient." And I'm like, "Yes." But
not on your pocketbook.
We're using this word, but we don't know what this word means.
I said, "Yes, but we're going to have to replace the air conditioner with a heat pump." And I explained to them why, and they understood that. I said, "So what I would like,"
or they pretended to understand it.
Yeah, well, I asked all the questions, and then I said, "Well, can I take a look at all your equipment? I'm going to need to see your furnace, your air conditioner, your breaker box. I'm going to see what it need to take to do this. So we go look at it. Ductwork's pretty new. It all looks pretty decent. House was remodeled 5 years ago. Air conditioners on a low roof out back, not much yard, so it's not like a high theft area. It's just there's no room to put it anywhere. So it's literally right above the furnace. The furnace is in the laundry room. The AC sitting right above it on this flat roof. Like it used to be I guess the laundry room's probably an addition. I go outside where the breaker box is, and it's a 100 amp service with like a weatherhead that looks like it was installed in like 1960. Maybe the panel too. And I'm like, I said, have you all had any breakers tripping or anything? And they're like, no, it's been great. I'm like, I don't know how. I don't know if they took the water heater straight to the hot side on before the main. I mean, seriously.
Man, you better get some smoke detectors down here around this circuit breaker box.
So I said, you all got a pretty big problem here. Whether you do this or not, you need to replace your breaker box. They said, well, do you know a good electrician? And I said, sure. So I referred them to an electrician. He went out, gave them a price, including running my electrical circuit because it's going to have to be ran a conduit down the side of the house. And then because the crawl space is inaccessible. The attic's not accessible. And what is, but you can't crawl around in there. So they're going to run it and land me a disconnect in there. And that was 2 months ago, I think. 3 days ago, made it 2 months ago. I was at their house. And the electrician is installing the panel tomorrow. And then they just signed the paperwork today for the system that they're going to put in. And again, these folks want to be all electric. They drive like a hybrid. They're trying to be green people, I guess, is what they're trying to do. At the same time, they're scared of gas. So, and I mean, so I literally had to update the proposals.
The media has done a job on these people.
Yeah.
Basically.
So because the Louisville City area is a very blue area, I will say. Now,
the mockingbird effect of like all of this stuff has just psyoped all these people into like, you can't even, like, what the heck are they thinking about? An on-demand electric water heater. They conflated two things into one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, on-demand electric water heater?
Yeah,
Who does that?
I have no idea. We don't even sell on-demand electric water heaters.
I mean, it's a huge amount of money and a huge amount of your panel. And the most efficient hot water, if they wanted to be efficient about it, would be a heat pump hot water.
Yeah. Well, I had another lady today on a job I sold that was, anyways, I'll get through this one. I'll go to her.
Yeah.
But anyways, so I'm talking to them about the equipment, and about a month ago, they said, I want to go with the premium option, which is our premium's a 2-stage Performance Series heat pump with a Performance Series air handler, or preferred if you're a Bryant dealer. Same difference. And I said, you're sure that's what you want to do? And they're like, yes, we're 100% sure. And I'm like, you don't even want to consider these Infinity Series units, even though you're converting to all electric efficient stuff. I said, technically, these are the most efficient if that's what you're looking at. You know, and I never sell those on efficiency, but in this situation, we were talking about it, you know, and they were like, well, I really don't like the thermostat. That's why we don't want to go with that option. You know, like, you don't like the Infinity thermostat. They're like, nope, we don't like the way it looks. It's black. I said, well, I can get a white one. And in our proposal, it shows a picture of it, and we usually sell black ones. But we have some white ones. And I'm like, well, we can get white ones. Yeah. Well, it's not just that, you know, I don't like how it does, you know, it learns the, you know, run and measures like run times and all this stuff. And, you know, I just don't like all that. And I'm like, well, I don't know what you mean, but they did a little research online, I guess. And,
yeah, that's where they get all their Mensa information.
And I said, well, I normally wouldn't do this, but I mean, if on recently Carrier has made a deal with Wells Fargo where we can do 0 for 36 months. It doesn't hurt our job. So, but it has to be on Infinity Series stuff. So I said, if you go up to that, because they're gonna do a 0 for 24 financing on this. So I could actually finance the 0 for 36 for a lower monthly. And they were really worried about like a certain monthly amount originally. And I'm like, well, I can get that monthly amount down. It'd just be a year longer, but it'd be quite a bit cheaper a month. And you would get a better system. And they were like, so I go through all this and I said, so what do you think? They said, we think we're going to go with the premium. I said, okay, that's great. When would you like to do it? And I sent her the loan app and they did it together and got approved. And they got approved for $200 more than it would have cost for the 5-speed system. And
so they could have had it.
They could have had it, yeah, for sure.
All because they don't want it to monitor run times. They're like, we don't.
That's part of that. And they said it like learns like your use the way you use it, and they don't want it to do. I said, well,
it's a tinfoil hat thing.
I said all those new thermostats do that. Like I said, and this other unit's going to fit nicer where it needs to go. It's smaller, slimmer. It's. I mean, it makes a lot. It's going to be better for everybody. Quieter, yeah. It's on your roof, yeah. It's not gonna be going brrr, like your regular compressors when they kick on. They're loud. I mean, the 2-speed's quite a bit quieter, but still. And I didn't bring nothing up on tax credits. I think that 2-speed does qualify for a tax credit, but I did not talk about it at all because as soon as I did, that would have been the one, no matter what.
Yeah.
That would have been the unit.
So this is sort of an example of how else could you get to a situation where the people where you could feel good about selling them the lesser system and not feel any responsibility towards them later if they realize that there are a bunch of smiley faces that they didn't get.
I almost wish I didn't even turn that option on for that person. But again, at the same time, that's really not my place to do that.
No. And you never know what they were going to buy. You want to, have that stuff.
I don't know. I had a pretty good idea when we had a conversation. That I was like, they're probably going to buy an Infinity.
Well, and you don't really. Either way, the difference in your commission is not all that big. So
no, I'll make actually more money probably off the premium than I will off that 5-stage because I'll have a higher margin on the job for sure. It'll have a higher job margin, so I'll probably make more money. But again, it's not even about that. I mean, really, I think they would have been better off with the other unit. But again,
But you can sleep at night because you really walked them through this decision
3 times
and gave it to them a bunch of times as a guide as opposed to hero, and documented that you tried to guide them, and so nobody could ever. It won't come back.
100%.
It won't come back on you.
Yep.
Yeah, that's all you can do.
That's right. And then I went to another one this morning. Older lady, retired from the Navy, 30 years. She said, but money's really not a problem. She can afford probably any of the systems. She'd had another price before me. They were more expensive than I was. She had actually given that company a deposit, and they were supposed to hold the check and not deposit it yet. They went ahead and deposited her check, which made her mad, made her not trust them. So then she calls us.
As you can imagine.
Calls us for free second opinion. Our tech goes out and says, yeah, the heater pack's burn up. It's 36 years old. It's the heat pump's working. We could replace the heat pack, but it's going to be like $1,200 or something for this one because we have to order it. And like we fix it though. And she's like, nah, I don't want to do that. So I go out there, talk it over with her. She wants an electric tankless water heater, is what she's telling me. And
another one of these.
And I said, well, why are you wanting an electric tankless water heater? She's like, well, for one, I don't have the space for the water heater. We're going to actually have to pull her water heater out to put her new air handler in and reinstall her water heater. But she said, I'm going to be doing a bathroom remodel, and I'd like to make that a linen closet because the bathroom where it sets, the water heater's right on the other side of the wall where she wants to make that linen closet. And she said, when I remodel my bathroom, I want that to be a linen closet right there. I said, okay, I get it. Yeah, whatever. I said, we don't sell tankless electric water heaters. She was like, what do you mean you don't? You're like one of the biggest plumbing companies in Louisville. And I'm like, yeah, we don't sell them. Well, why don't you sell them? I said, well, we've had problems with them. They don't make a lot of sense because when you actually use water, you're going to burn a lot of energy. And I said, most people need 400 amp service on their house to actually have one that's worth having. She's like, well, I had my service upgraded. It's 200 amp.
Whoa. That tiny little house is 200
yes.
amp?
Yeah. 1,096 square foot with a 200 amp
Dang.
service. It's all electric. The house is.
She's going to get a Cybertruck?
I don't know what she's going to do, but I talked to her a little bit about it and said, well, what we can do is she said, well, maybe I'll wait on the water heater and I'll do a little more research before I decide what I'm going to do. And I said, well, if you're looking for a space saver, I get it. But any other reason, that water heater makes no sense. Makes zero sense. Right. And I said, it will cost you more money to operate it. It will. And she's like, well, what's the most efficient? A heat pump? And I said, absolutely. So then I go over all the options with her. She was going to do a 17.5 SEER or 17.2 SEER train that was variable speed. I don't know if you all familiar with that. It's like a 2-speed, but it's 2-speed variable. It's like inverter 2-speed. And they were going to charge like $23,000 for that unit.
Wow.
And then they had a full variable for 26. And
in a 1,000 square foot joint.
Yeah. So I go over all the options with her, and I'm like, the 5-speed probably makes the most sense for this house for best bang for your buck. I said, we can do this pretty affordable. And I said, with pulling the water heater, reinstalling it, I said, you're 16, 17-ish, and she's like, nah, I think I want to do the best one. So she spent like almost 22 on a green speed just because, and she called, she had 2 more appointments scheduled, and she went ahead and called the other companies while I was there doing the paperwork and canceled her appointments with other companies. She didn't want to hear what they had to say after I went over everything with her. So
the process works.
Yeah, it worked for sure, especially here. And she thanked me and shook my hand and like was grateful. And we're not putting it into the 15th, but yeah, I mean, it works. And she really didn't need a green speed, but she just wants the best unit. It has, we give you like 15-year parts and labor with it. She really wanted that. She liked that it, would heat better, colder, temperatures, which it ought to.
Are you going to be able to move her water heater enough that she can have her linen closet, or no?
No way. Nope. The furnace we're putting in, the air handler will be 3 inches smaller, almost 3.5. So she will get a little space there. Maybe they can squeeze it in beside it and give her a linen closet, but then the water heater wouldn't be accessible without pulling the furnace.
Gotcha.
So I don't know. I mean, she could relocate the water heater somewhere else in the house.
Right.
That would be her best bet, to move it to like her laundry room or something is where I would move it if I was her. She could use a stackable washer dryer and throw her a new electric heater in right there and be golden.
Oh, there you go. Bob's your uncle. So Reedy, this sounds like sort of the reason you love the process. A lot of avoiding responsibility.
Oh yeah. That's exactly right. I'm all about that. You never can tell, what people will say. I had a lead similar. This guy went to his house. He's got a $75,000 piano. It was 2 months ago. 2 months ago, and he finally today signed the deal. We went from, I want the cheapest thing you got, I went through the, free quote with him. He said, well, he never would tell me anything. And then finally, last week, he said, I just have to have something that's quiet. That's my big thing. He said, forget the piano. I'm not trying to control the room. I've got it under control. I just have to have something that's quiet. We had started out originally, it was just going to be the 2-stage, just like what Ronnie was talking about, or a single stage. And he said the green speed, he wasn't concerned about it because he just didn't listen. We talked about all these things and he never would answer the question. So last week he says sound is the main thing. So that immediately puts it back to a 5-stage or green speed. And you know what I ended up doing?
And he's got this piano, so he wants to manage the humidity, doesn't he?
Well, he's got that under control.
He's got that under control now? Okay.
Yeah. So what he ended up doing was going with a crossover.
Oh my God. Bouncing all over the place and then bounced into the middle.
Yeah, because he was all geared for the 2-stage. Then when he told me about the noise, we went to the green speed. The green speed after the tax credit and the carrier rebate was going to end up less than the 2-stage. And what it really came down to is he didn't want to net $15,000. He wanted to net like almost between 10 and 11. And he ended up netting 10.6, and that's him keeping his thermostats and not having the smiley face is ultimately what he ended up.
But that's documented now.
It is documented, excessively documented. That $75,000 piano, you're not going to put that on me, big boy. I mean,
wow.
Yeah.
You would think if you owned a $75,000 piano, you would want
you would be able to spend an extra $4,000.
Yeah. Because the reality of it is he was going to get a green speed after it's all said and done for and we're removing his zoning because he had some numbskull from our company in 2010 put zoning in there, and the zones don't even fit the ducts don't even fit the zones that they're on. So he's got a 14-inch damper with 4 6s, 4 6-inch range, and a ridiculous bypass. And so now what we're doing is we're taking that zoning out, and he's going to free flow it. And that basement that he's got, he doesn't care about too much. He's probably going to put sensors in. All that craziness. And if it's because of those smiley faces that are on the screen right there in front of us and the frowns, he can't do nothing to me.
Right.
It's all on him. So yes.
Okay. Was that green speed going to be 17 and then he's going to get 2,000 back, or was it going to be 15 and get 2,000 back?
It was going to be 20, and he was going to get 2,200 for the carrier rebate, and then he was going to get 2,000 for the tax credit, and then Duke Progress has 850, so he's going to end up like 15,200.
Oh man, that's a no-brainer.
It is a complete no-brainer. And funny thing is, this guy's a doctor. He's got the money to do it, and
he's got the money to buy a $75,000 piano. I mean,
that's right. That's right. So it kind of flies in the face of everything. He's just got the cheap disease,
Yeah. Just stuck. Something stuck in his tooth.
Yeah, just imagine not having to run all those dehumidifiers that are noisy, and your humidity being great.
I know, and I mean, if it's all about noise, what are you doing with those dehumidifiers there?
Well,
yeah,
that's awesome.
If you're gonna be dumb, you better be tough.
That's really. I think once we get this checklist, it'll be even better. So, going back to likely load range, when you guys are talking to people about this, how does that look?
You mean the talk?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it kind of looks like what you said from the beginning. You've got a high, you've got a low, and you got the middle. Most people pick the middle, and I'm not talking about the people who live in the house. I'm talking about the people, and I say most of them because most people ain't doing this, but most people, they're probably going to do the middle because they're scared. And,
For sure.
they don't have anything other to do than say, this is kind of where you're at anyway, so you might as well stick over here, but we're going to have to do something with the duct, instead of saying, hey, you really should go over towards the green, and you can always work on your house, but don't you think that you should go towards that because of all the benefits that you're going to get from it? And it's a fear thing, and if they can get past the fear thing, I think they could get to the green. Because that guy who we were just talking about with the piano,
Mm-hmm.
he had a 3-ton. He wants to go up, and
Yeah.
you
More
know,
power.
yeah, and I told him, I said, you don't, even just as basic stuff, because we
How
have
much
to
ductwork?
huh?
How much ductwork does he have?
Oh, he's got enough duct work, but he's got enough size of duct. It's just his zones were set up in such a bizarre way that the only real answer was to get rid of the zoning and let it
Okay.
free flow. And
So he didn't need to go bigger. He just needed to fix the zoning.
yeah,
Or get rid of it.
and in effect, I did the manual J, and like you're supposed to, no blower door and any of that. And we came up saying 31,000. Well, if we'd have put a blower door in that, it probably would have been lower. He's
Right.
got an unconditioned basement. He's got a conditioned basement, and very little of that house is crawl space. And I mean, who knows what the attic was going to look like, the leakage from there. But the reality of it is 3 tons has worked just fine for him. And then when he told me his set point was 78 degrees for cooling.
Well, he needs a 2-ton.
Ooh.
Oh,
That's right. And so he's kind of, I offered that, and he goes, no, not doing that. So, okay.
Ooh.
His humidity would have been great.
It would have been fantastic.
78. Man, that's a
He's probably keeping a 78 to save energy too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's better for his piano.
Yeah. I had one guy, he told me he was on time of use and asked me if I understood what time of use meant. And I asked him to explain it to me. Of course I know what it means, but I asked him to explain it to me. And we went down in size on this is a couple of months ago too. We went down in size on his equipment, and he said, what do you keep your heat strips at? I said, that green speed does wonderful for me. I said, I keep them at 16. So it won't, the strips won't come on until it gets to be 16. And he said, what do you do about defrost? I said, I just turn them off. It won't come on in defrost. And he goes, that's what I want to do too. So I can't wait.
Oh,
Mine
At least-
are off unless mine only get used for cooling, really.
Yeah, right. I mean, mine didn't come on one time last year, and I showed it to him on the app.
it's powerful owning the equipment, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, this new R454 stuff that's coming out, that green speed, the very top one, that thing the 3-ton at 10 degrees outside, the capacity that it has is going to be 32,000 BTUs.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
That is smoking.
It's a bad mamma jamma.
Yeah.
And Ronnie you were saying that it's only coming out as a heat pump?
The very best will be there won't be a 26 air conditioner. They'll have the replacement of the 5-speed. The replacement of the 5-speed will be a 20 SEER or something. It's a full variable now.
Yeah, they got. You're right. They got
It'll be a
a
21 in the
0.
AC.
They got 0, 1, and a 3.
Yep, 0, 1, and a 3. There's not going to be a green speed air conditioner as there shouldn't be.
No, absolutely not.
Heil
Yeah,
and
too bad that
Tempstar will
thing
have
Nate
one
wrote
too.
didn't have more teeth, or we wouldn't have any air conditioners. Can you imagine if
Yeah.
Biden had actually gotten behind that?
Well,
Could have been a hero.
Yep, he could have did something good.
He
maybe
could have
if
did something good.
well, I guess maybe if we'd have had somebody that was actually alive, we'd have had a better shot. But
we had
unfortunately, he was dead.
His girl is running the country. What are you talking about?
Yeah, the one that speaks in gypsy curses. Okay.
Yeah, right. If it's good for the immigrants, she'll do it. But otherwise, she has to get those kickbacks from the cartels.
Yeah. She's too busy telling like 3-year-old stories just in her mind when she just talks.
Oh God. Well, she was raised in a middle class family. 33 days. 32 days. 30.
Oh.
God, if she wins, I think it's going to be a very interesting 4 years. And a lot of missed opportunity.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, the special interest groups will just be chomping at the bits, just like who can get in first to get their thing in effect.
All right. Any other good sales stories or any other thoughts on likely load range? Ronnie, how is your pitch on likely load range when you're trying to explain it to people?
Well, in most cases, people will be in the red. In some cases, they're in the yellow. So generally speaking, if someone's in the red, like today, the guy with the 5-ton, and we put him in the yellow with like a 4-ton, right? I'll talk to him and say, hey, we could potentially go down to a 3, and then it'll usually talk them up to doing like a 2 or a 5 or a variable speed, because they're variable capacity. So they're like, well, we'll be in the green when it's in low or whatever, and just in case it's really hot, because this guy, his set point was a little lower. It was like 71 on a really hot day. So
do you think that when you see something like that, do you think it's because it's not dehumidifying well, or do you think there's something else?
I mean, it could be that. It also could be that he just likes it cold. I mean, he works in a hot shop all day.
Okay.
He's does tool.
Oh, he's coming home overheated, and it's taken a while for him to get his core cooled off.
Yeah. And they're not like exactly skinny people either, so they probably like it a little cooler.
Okay.
I mean, they weren't like huge either, but I've noticed, like for instance, I saw the AC coil the other day on last Wednesday. It was supposed to go in Thursday. Well, the coil wasn't available because they needed one of those flat coils because it's in a crawl space, and there was no plenum space to put a different coil in. So we had to reset him to today. Well, it was like 64 degrees Thursday last week, and he sends me a message and he's like, hey, by chance, do you all have like a portable air conditioner I could borrow? And it's 64 degrees outside. And
wow.
I'm like, unfortunately, no, we don't. But, if I did, I would be happy to lend it to
Can
you.
you open a window and put a fan in it?
So I told him maybe open a window, use a fan. But this guy was like, he looked like Macho Man Randy Savage. He's a great big old, like muscular guy. But I'm sure that's why he was probably warmer, because he's, got all that muscle as insulation or whatever. I guess more muscular people would be hotter, I would think.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
I would think so anyway. But he's like, man, it was worth the try. But he was like bummed out that he wasn't going to have that air conditioner on a 70-degree day. But again, he's like, I understand. So at least he was cool about it and didn't just cancel the job over it. Some people get upset and cancel jobs over simple stuff like that. But
So likely load range is sort of depends on the.
depends on the person, depending on how big of a risk they're going to take. And like Reedy said, it depends on, when you go there and see the house, depends on how much of a risk you're willing to take. And again, I'll look at the home too. And if there's like old crappy windows in the house and I pop my head in the attic, there's not a lot of insulation in the attic. Sometimes I'll talk about the yellow more than the green because I'm a little scared in those cases too. Especially if I ask them the questions and they're not willing to do anything to their house.
Right.
Then a lot of times I will go yellow. If I'm like, hey, we could go in the green, and worst case scenario, if doesn't do as good as you like, you could always improve your house. And they're like, no, we really don't want to do that. Then a lot of times I'm like, well, if we go in the yellow and do a multi-speed unit, everybody's pretty safe.
Mm-hmm.
And they're, and then there's some people that are all for going in the green. Like, yeah, let's do it. Let's see what happens. What's the worst that could happen?
That's awesome. And then, so really, you'll use it. Your constraint's going to be the ductwork.
Ductwork
You'll size to the duct.
Yeah, if I see problems with like the house, etc., then yeah, I'll try to size the system to the duct system, just like I did the one earlier. I mean, that was a nice house.
Where did the size of that equipment fall on the likely load range?
It was in the yellow.
Oh, okay. So I think I'm totally comfortable with using likely load range that way. You're trying to lean them towards the green. So and then
I told him we could go 3 ton, but he wasn't hearing that.
Well, you lean them towards the green, and if they're gonna have less than 0.5 static in the yellow, then all right.
He will.
Fine,
with the zoning, I think he will. It'll run a little. I think it'll probably just run in low for the upstairs most of the time, more than anything.
Right.
And I could probably even set the control up to where upstairs only calls for single stage cooling.
Right.
And then if the second zone opens, it can stage in the second.
That's probably a good idea if he's got it zoned that way. Anyway.
We had one that Cody had sold a while back that wasn't keeping up on really hot days.
Yeah.
And what I mean by keeping up is he was keeping it 65 in the house and it was only keeping the house 68.
Oh.
And Cody took them down a ton and a half.
Wow.
And service went out there, said everything's working fine. We think it's undersized. So I go out there with service. They want me to look at the house at this point. And I found they never even hook up second stage of cooling. It was just, it was a heat pump, but second stage of cooling wasn't hooked up. It was set only first stage and ran. It had been running at 63%, keeping it 68 degrees on a 90-degree day. Like it's still oversized.
Yeah, right. We put this into second stage, it's going to shut off, and then you're not going to get any dehumidification. It's
maybe he dropped it 2 ton. I think it was a 5 ton. You put a 3 in or something. Like, I mean, it was something crazy, and I was like,
"Why do you do something so?" I mean, he's not using the process, so you guys are totally exposed.
He did a manual J load, and he looked at the house, and he looked at the ductwork, and he actually called me, and he said, "Ronnie, I got this size ductwork, this size ductwork." That's a 3-ton duct system.
Oh, okay.
And he was like, I thought it was. He's like, I'm not going to sell him 5 ton. The guy's wanting a 5 ton. I'm not going to do it. I was like, I wouldn't do it. I said, I'd walk away from the job if he wants a 5 ton. Really? I mean, it's with a 3-ton duct system. I said, you put that. Since it's a 2-speed, you might be okay, but let's sell you a 5-ton green speed and lock it on low.
Yeah. I mean, a guy like that kind of deserves that sort of treatment. He's opened himself up to it.
Well, and budget was a thing for him too. He didn't have a ton of money. So So Cody, you know,
So he's saving him money.
he did save money because other companies quoted him a 4-ton. You know, they were scared and they were quoting 4-ton because everybody knew it didn't need a 5, but they're like, well, we'll just put a 4 in. You know, it'd be fine. And but he wanted a 2-speed or better because he wanted the dehumidification because he keeps it really low. So he wanted it to be able to dehumidify a little better because he keeps the temperature so low. His wife has some medical problem and they need to keep it colder for whatever reason.
Okay.
And he's like, 68's just not going to cut it. So I go out there and then we get second stage running. So then we got to take a bunch of charge out of the unit because they charged it.
They think it. Oh, this is undercharged. Oh my God.
Yeah. So they charged it, overcharged it. So we had to hook it up inside too. We had to hook it up with the thermostat. So Y2 was unhooked in the air handler. Y2 was it's just like an extra wire just chilling like over in the harness. It's still like, and I grab it and I'm like, what's that? And I went out there with the install manager and he was like, you're joking, right? And I'm like, no, this is it. I hooked it up. You could hear it go, like I jumped it to red. You could hear the compressor wake up.
Right. Oh, I've been asleep here for a while.
So this unit's never running
Good
high.
Lord.
That's awesome that it ran it. I said his humidity was like 40% in his house though, at 68 degrees.
I bet so.
Mhm.
Never shut
Right.
off.
I can't believe they weren't comfortable because that's a dry house.
Well, I mean, I'm sure it was comfortable, but they wouldn't get over the set point.
Oh,
It
they're
has
all
to reach
emotionally tied to the.
65 degrees.
Gotcha.
And Cody's like, well, I did my load at 70. I said, why'd you do your load at 70? I said, what'd they tell you? He said, he told me 65, but he's a crazy person. I said, I get that, but with that being said, why ask him the temperature at all if you're just going to put it at 70 anyway?
Right.
So what if he'd said 75? Would you put it at 70?
The guy went away?
Oh, yeah, we fixed it. We fixed the charge. I had install come and replace the drop for free for him. The drop was undersized. That was the only part I had a problem with. And the way they had attached it to our box, I made them fix that. And I did all that for free because of the us jacking him around and having 2 service techs out saying it was just undersized. And, you know, they were all like, we took a 5-ton out, put 3-ton in here. It's undersized.
Oh, right. So you got to stick it up their ass a little bit too then.
Well, I actually told service that said it's not your job to size this stuff. Like, you all go there. If you can't get it fixed, then tell your manager and let your manager talk to him about that kind of stuff. It's not your place.
Do not open your mouth.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because then
If
the
you're gonna be
guy's like,
stupid, then shut up.
You make the whole company look like it's a bunch of morons because you guys are a bunch of morons.
yeah, the guy's
Do you
like,
want
"Man,
people
I
to know you're a moron, or do they want you to just think you might be?
Yeah.
Don't be confirming if you don't have to.
Right. As Ronnie would say, I know y'all is morons, but don't be confirming it.
Yep. It's like the
Hey, guys.
job that. Go ahead.
Reedy,
I'm gonna get.
thanks for coming. Nice to
Thank
see
you
you.
guys. Yes, you
See
guys.
you, Reedy.
See you later. Bye.
Later.
Oh, that's funny. Some funny shit, guys.
Yep. It was
Thank
about
you.
as funny as the system that I converted. The upstairs was an air conditioning only system. And we put a heat pump and an air handler in, and it was supposed to have a heat pack in it, but it wasn't supposed to be hooked up in case the guy ever wanted to hook it up.
Oh God, yeah.
Then install hooks up a 10 kW heat pack on a 12-2 at ground on a double 20. And the guy kicks the heat on the breaker trips. So this house has never had the heat up. Well, it's had heat upstairs, but it's off the main system. And he said it's always been 5-6 degrees cooler up there. And I was like,
Ugh. That's bad.
yeah. So
Well, now you
I
maybe
said-
have some heat.
I said, well, man, we could replace your air conditioner with a heat pump, you know, and we'll just set it up for heat pump only, and then it'll probably make up a couple degrees up there, make you more comfortable, I'd say. And he was like, that's a good idea, and heat pumps more efficient anyway, aren't they? I said, absolutely. So we put him a heat pump in, and then he's like,
And
Ronnie,
the guy sent that air handler out with a coil on top, or with a
heat pack in it.
heat
Yep.
pack in it, even though it wasn't ordered.
Yeah. Well, they put the heat pack in it anyway. And then I'm like,
And then they hook it up, even
then
though
they
it
hook it
wasn't
up.
supposed to have it.
Then service goes out, and they're like, well, the unit we put in needs a bigger wire ran to it. And without ever calling me, they call the install manager. The install manager's like, well, I guess we're gonna have to put them a new wire in for free. So they call an electrician. It's like $2,200 to put this wire in because it's from the basement 3 stories up in like this 200-year-old house. I'm like, we're not putting that wire in.
Wait. How did you? When did you say any? Wait, you weren't even brought into it yet, so you got
not until the day they were supposed to put the wire in the house.
So all these phone calls are going on, and not one of them goes to Ronnie.
To me, until the day of. Rachel sends me an email and says, Ronnie, do you mind looking at this really quick for me? I said, not at all. And I'm like, well, there wasn't supposed to be a heat pack in that unit. And they're like, oh, we done told him we was going to run a new electrical wire. I'm like, well, then untell him that. And we're not. And then they're like, we need you to call him. I'm like, okay. So I called him and talked to him. His wife answers. She's all like fussing at me and stuff and all this and that. I can't believe you sold us a unit. Can't believe you sold us a unit that won't work with our electric, and I can't believe you expected us to spend $2,000 and make this new unit work.
Right.
And because the service guy's like, it just won't work. It won't work. And I'm like, so I'm like, I'm not in the arguing mood, and I'm not going to argue with you. I would like to explain this to you if that's okay. Can you give me a few seconds to speak? And then the husband hears that, and he's like, let me have that phone. Like he's real mad. These are old, like 70-year-old people. I get on the phone with him. He starts talking. I said, can I explain to you? And he said, sure. So I explained it all to him. He said, nobody has said nothing like that to me. All that makes sense. I kind of remember us talking about maybe, just having this like this. And then we could do a heat pack if we needed to get it to where we needed. Now that rings a bell. And I said, guess what? Now you got the heat pack for free. So if you do decide you want to hook it up, feel free to do it. I said, I'd like to come out there with a technician and disable it and get it all set up right and put the right filter dryer in the unit, because we put we didn't put a biflow dryer. They mixed the dryers up. So downstairs got the biflow, the AC did, the upstairs got
these guys, poor Ronnie.
Good Lord.
So I go out there.
And this is the stuff that drove Jason Cecil nuts.
It took us 3 hours to fix it.
Are they just having a tard off? Is that what they're doing? It's like,
Yeah.
who can be the dumbest? Who is capable of being the dumbest? And everybody's just like, oh, you don't realize I got this trump card. Watch
and by
me.
the way, if they had called Ronnie at the beginning of all of this, a whole lot of Chinese fire drill wouldn't have happened. But apparently these fucking idiots like Chinese fire drill.
Once I speak with them, they said they're fine with not having it done. I have to call the general manager and talk to him. So he brought the managers in. And I'm talking to the general manager, and I said, I'm not sure why it got escalated to this without me being contacted. He said, well, client care, does this and that. I said, this was not client care. And he said, what do you mean? I said, listen to my phone conversation. I called on a recorded line. They said the install manager, which he's standing in the room, this is on speakerphone. So the install manager told them we would do this at no charge because we made a mistake without ever consulting me. This is 100% his fault and, his installer's fault. And moving forward, if anything like this happens, I expect to be consulted because,
or
next time
paid
it happens,
for
I'm just
fixing
going
it.
to let it happen. Next time it happens, I'm just going to let y'all give them $2,000.
Right. Right. Because
drop.
that comes off of somebody's bonus, right?
Off of theirs, not mine. I'm already paid out for it. This happened like 6 months ago. This job did.
Right. Right. So
So-
that would affect their profitability, and they're all getting paid on
100%.
that shit.
Yeah, they're not going to get their bonus because it's going to cut into their reserve money that they get bonus money if they don't use.
Gotcha. So they got a
you know,
warranty reserve account.
Oh,
And
yeah.
if they don't hit that number, they get a bonus on it.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to start talking about warranty reserve bonuses. Because a lot of this HVAC20 process is, I mean, none of your jobs hit their warranty reserve.
Yeah, unless they totally screw it up. You know what I mean?
None of your jobs hit the warranty reserve unless somebody else makes a mistake.
Yeah, like
Not a
install.
sales mistake. It's
Yeah,
a
like
Yeah.
yeah, like for instance, the duct job I sold for 16 grand. The whole reason he wanted to do it in the first place was to move the ductwork out of the way, so he could build this room in his basement. He's making a bedroom down there, so he wanted this ductwork moved over. So because he's going to build the wall right against the edge of it, and then he's going to make a utility closet where the furnace is. And the installer was told day of by the manager to put the ductwork in said spot. He did not do that. The day he was finishing, he calls the manager and says, well, I talked it over with him. He said he might be okay with it. He's going to think it over. And if he has a problem with it, he's going to give Ronnie a call. No one ever told me. I found out today because the homeowner called me. And this was like a week ago. He said, I thought it over, Ronnie, and I think I need y'all to come move that ductwork. I said, what are you talking about, Tyler? I have no idea what you're talking about. And so I called the install manager, and he's like, yeah, that's what they told me. I said, well, why was I not? Well, I knew you'd want it fixed either way, you know. I said, you're daggone right I want it fixed.
The guy spent $16,000 to get that ductwork moved over, and then you didn't move it over.
Yeah. You moved it over some, just not as much as you could have. I'm sure they came out of the front of the plenum instead of the side, which is harder. But, you know, let's do it that way. I said, now you're going to have to replace the plenum and unhook all that zoning and all that mess we just put in there.
Jesus.
Do you know
that is an example of them going, there's going to be warranty reserve problems left and right. And
the
all
install
of that
manager said he's going to do it himself. That way it doesn't affect the margin on the job, is what he told me today.
Okay.
I don't believe him. I'm going to show up there Friday and find out, though. I promise you
that. That's right. Not a lot of leads yet because it hasn't been cold, so you'll probably be able to.
And actually, I've ran 4 leads now. Think about it. Number 5 was me selling that one from 2 months ago. So I ran 2 today and 2, I guess, Friday. What day was Friday? Was it the 1st or something?
Might have been the 1st because today
I
is
ran
the 4th.
Yeah, 2 and 2.
Do you know how they, like, as far as the warranty reserve, do they just kind of setting aside a certain percent of revenue per ticket sold, and then do you know how they're coming up with the number?
Depending on the part and labor warranty. So if we have a 10-year part and labor warranty, they take 2% of the job and they put it in reserve.
Okay.
If it's 15, they take 3%. If it's 5 years labor, then they take 1%. So per 5 years, they take 1% of that job.
So they're just doing that labor warranty like in-house. They're not doing like a JV warranty type thing.
No, it's an in-house warranty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because if we do a good job, we make a ton of money off that. Like.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's all filled in with our install pack. So instead of giving some other company $1,000 or whatever, they just because we do 15-year parts and labor on green speeds. That's all only on the top tier Infinity stuff, but we can do it on a 5-stage too. So like if I'm in if I get like in between another company and they're, the homeowner's like trying to get me to give them a discount rather than giving them money off the job, I'm like, well, I'll give you 5 more years of parts and labor. How's that sound? They're like, yeah, let's do that. Heck yeah. And that just hurts my job 1% instead of giving them like 5 or 10% off.
Yeah.
So for me, it's better, and for them, it's better.
Yeah. So
that's the tail end of the thing if they still own the house.
So that additional labor warranty, that's a big selling point for a lot of people then, isn't it?
Oh, yes. It's parts and labor. It's parts and labor. So we even cover the parts for the last 5 years, but which I think is insanity. It's insane. What if?
But most people live in a house 7 years, right?
Absolutely, and that's what they expect. And we've only we don't have a whole lot of claims after 10 years.
Right.
And then if they don't do maintenance for 3 or 4 years, then we void that labor warranty anyway.
Okay, just have a maintenance stipulation with it.
You have to have preventative maintenance done not by us, but by a licensed contractor, and you have to have proof if it's not by us doing it. So you'd have to have it done every year, at least once. They'd like you to have it done twice, but at least once a year. And we'd like you to hold a membership with us, but you don't have to. So it's a non-exclusive maintenance warranty. So as long as they're having a company clean it and they have documentation, then we will honor that warranty.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually sold a system last month for like 18,000-19,000 bucks. He had a pancake unit that we converted to a air handler heat pump 5-speed, and it was only 9 years old, and he didn't do maintenance for 3 years, and ended up getting a leak on the condenser coil. And when we got there, the unit was completely stopped up with crap, like cottonwood and dirt. And it looked disgusting.
Yeah, so you just take a couple of pictures and you're like, see, you didn't maintain it.
Yeah, no, and we got there and he was like, he was straight up. He's like, no, I didn't maintain it. I could have went out there and at least sprayed it off myself, but I didn't. I'm like, well, that's why the coil went bad. Pressure got high and you destroyed this unit, And I looked at the price from 9 years ago. He'd spent like $5,800 on the whole system or something crazy.
Oh, wow.
Goodness.
COVID inflation.
Yeah, well, we also relocated his washer box to do that. I charged him $1,000 to move his washer box. Literally, it was on this wall, and we flipped it on the other side. So, like, outside the room. So we put his washer and dryer. It's a condo in his kitchen. It's a stackable.
Okay.
So he wanted that. He's like, I'll do whatever it takes to get that furnace out of the ceiling. Because the filter was in the wall, and then it was free draw up there with ceiling tiles. So it was always nasty, dirty, and he just, would have to have that evaporator cleaned every couple years and blower wheels. And he was just like, I'm not doing this anymore.
Oh, so it worked out okay for him anyway.
Oh, it was perfect. Yeah, he was like, when I helped him build his specification, part of it was like, I need some way an air filter to actually work on this unit.
Right.
Whatever it takes. He's like, air filtration is super important to me. So that was that.
Good stories.
Yep.
Thank you for coming, Ronnie.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. Nice seeing you guys.
Yeah. That it was.
Anything?
Hopefully I get my car back sometime soon.
Oh my God.
They've had it in service mode for days.
You got a loaner? Oh, right. All apart.
Yeah.
They got the rear end off. I wonder why the front's open.
They probably had to open the front to disable I think there's like a battery they got to unhook in
12
there.
volt. They unhooked the
12
volt.
volt.
Yeah,
because I'm sure they pulled the front apart and did all that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's inside the building. I rode past there today. It's in the building. You can see it in the glass all took apart. Everything. Okay. There's nothing like piled on it. Like I said, all that's in that place is like Porsches and Teslas. It's a really nice body shop.
I have a feeling that car's not going to be around long anyway.
Probably not. Probably not. It'll be around, just not around here.
Yeah.
Well, how are you doing with your Cybertruck there, Tanner?
It's doing great. I've had no problems. Still just as attention grabbing as normal. I mean, pretty much anytime I drive through my service areas, there's going to be at least one person that's taking pictures of it.
And is it making the phone ring, you think?
Well, given the time of year, and given the temperature, I feel like that's going to be something it will make a difference, but it's going to be probably, a few more months. It's going to be,
Okay.
as it gets seen over and over and over, it's definitely going to get cemented in a lot of people's heads. And so I definitely foresee that happening, but I don't think it's going to happen like right this very second.
Okay. You think you'll wrap your trailer too?
Yeah. Well, when I eventually I don't have it yet, but I'm going to get an enclosed trailer to set up for install. And so when I do that, I'll wrap the outside and I'll kind of do it, same scheme type to match everything.
Okay. I thought you had a small enclosed trailer. You just have 2 flat trailers?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Just 2 utilities, a 20-foot and what was that, a 12-foot.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, so if you're going to get an enclosed trailer, maybe you have one where you can have a fold down bed or something. Has an exhaust fan or batteries or something to run.
Like for what?
Well, because then you can go to a job and live out of the trailer.
Oh, I see what you mean.
You know,
Yeah,
like those combined horse trailers.
yeah. Um, I don't know if I'll be doing enough,
That far
far
away.
out work
Yeah.
to really justify it.
No.
Because like this one potential job, I mean, it's literally down. It's like South Alabama. I mean, it's right outside of Mobile. So that's
Okay.
like basically as far as I could even go if I wanted to. And
Right.
it's not like I'm going to be doing much. It's going to take another like large job like this one, to happen anyways. So we'll see.
Right.
It's very spoiling. I will say that because you get used to driving it everywhere, and if when I do have to take my van, it's just the van sucks. It's so bad.
When do you have to take the van?
There will be a couple of times where, dependent on what I've got to do, I just might have all the things that I need to do the job will be on the van. So I've swapped it over, which I've kind of moved a lot of stuff around. I'm converting a lot of my stuff to being more pack out based, like the Milwaukee pack outs. My other
Okay.
van was just kind of your standard shelving setup, and so I'm kind of doing away with the shelving and was switching over to pack outs. And I bought several more pack outs to kind of build out, like, if it's like if I'm going to be doing membership maintenance trips or something, I just swap out. It takes 5 minutes to swap out pack outs, and then I've got my full PM setup or PM/service setup. And so I'm kind of changing. I'm toying around with kind of different things to see how I can make those work and such. Because I mean, especially if I make the truck, if I can figure out a way to make it feasible comparative to a van, then by the time those $60,000 Cybertrucks come out and having them wrapped, that's likely going to be the better route than just buying new vans, really.
Right.
Just for and unless there's some electric, unless you know Tesla
Mer-
or whoever comes out with some.
Mercedes has one that's 180 mile. Ford has one that's like 110, 120 mile. And
Yeah.
the place I talked to that has a bunch of the Fords, it's an HVAC company in Oak Island.
Hmm.
The 120 works for most of their service guys, but there are a few guys that it just doesn't cut it for. So I have a feeling that you need a 200-mile van
Well,
because
for me,
who
I mean,
wants to?
yeah. Well, for me, I kind of need more than that because dependent on where I'm going to go, if I've got to go to a supply house to pick up a part before I go to the first service call or first repair or whatever, I mean, I'm going to be driving 30 minutes one direction and then
Okay.
wherever because, since where
So
I'm
you
at, it's
need the
more space.
300. You need the Cybertruck in a
Yes,
van
yes, yes.
because
And
that's enough.
yeah, that's
Okay.
That's the only hiccup. And if I was, let's say,
Yeah,
I
because
had
he's
like
more
one.
residential, this guy, and you're more country,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I know there's a lot of people who they're like,
suburban.
"Oh, I don't leave outside of my 5 mile radius," and it's like, well,
Right,
I've got to drive 5 miles just to get to something.
right, right, right.
uh, but so yeah, and if there were more fast charging in my like if there were Tesla superchargers around, then it wouldn't be that big of a problem. But
Right,
there's
right.
not there's not a supercharging network to support low mileage, battery cars for service work. I just the I kind of have to have the Cybertruck.
Yeah. So I saw this today. I thought you guys might both be interested. It's kind of good news.
Yes. Well, I mean, they're for sure gonna have to have that. I mean,
Well, and they're going to show up on like particularly if you set to tow mode.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's
I
kind
feel
of
like they kind of missed the mark on
I think
not
they should have
having
been
that.
doing this 5 years
Yeah,
earlier.
yeah. I think
There
they
was
should
a
have.
lot of people were sort of starting to scream about it, and the Model Y came out with a trailer hitch. And as
Yeah.
soon as that Model Y came out with a trailer hitch, they should have been leaning in.
Yes.
I mean, the Model X had 5,000 pounds of towing, and lots of people were towing campers around.
Oh yeah.
So then that was since what, 2016, 2017?
Yeah.
So we're getting on 10 years here for
Yeah.
pull through charging. It's
Yeah. It's something
time.
that is absolutely necessary. Um, and especially when it gets into more like my area, places where you're going to have more truck usage of hauling stuff and whatnot. Like if you start selling more cyber trucks in that area, like that's that's going like that's something
People are
that's going to
gonna
be
be
needed.
buying them for this use. Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
because
huge money to be saved
yeah,
driving a
oh yeah,
Cybertruck.
oh definitely. I mean, you compare, and here's the funny thing, because I've had like I've did a couple of local events and stuff where I'll bring the truck and have it set up, because kids love it and they
Oh,
go and
yeah,
take
it's
a look
fun.
and whatnot.
Oh, that's neat.
Um, one of
Have
the
you gotten pictures and stuff of those?
of
Oh, like the kids and stuff?
uh n- I don't
Not
think I
enough.
have. There's been actually funny enough, there was at one of or the last event that I did. At one point there was a line of people that was probably I don't know 10 people long of people that were getting in line waiting because they wanted like their kids wanted to get into the truck and they wanted to take a picture of their kids in the truck.
Oh,
So
that's
the
awesome.
amount of people in my area that
I
have
want a
pictures of my
picture
truck
of
on their
people
phone.
lining up to get in your truck.
I wish I'm the worst at remembering to
Oh,
think about taking pictures of stuff like that, but yeah,
okay.
I should have took a picture of that because it was I mean, it was kind of one of those things where like you kind of turn and look back, and it's like, oh, there's a whole line of people. It was just kind of funny to see because,
Mhm.
and which part of it I think there were some people that it started with one person waiting, and then other people walked by and was like, oh, so this is just the line that you get in to take a picture of the Cybertruck? Sure, why not? And so people just started getting in line like it was here's a thing that you do. But it was funny.
Mhm.
But which I what to
I'm
the
gonna
point that I
run,
was about to
guys.
make.
Y'all have a good night, okay?
All right.
Okay,
We'll see
Ronnie,
you,
thanks
Ronnie.
for coming.
No problem. Have a good night.
Yeah, the point you were getting at, I'm sorry before I
Yeah.
interrupted.
Oh, it's fine. Well, because people are kind of comparing it to, well, they'll make the um, argument of, oh, but what if you had to replace the batteries or whatever, and talking about these expensive repairs, which is like, okay, fair enough, but compare it to a non-dually Duramax or a non-dually Cummings. What would you have to do if you replaced the motor? Or what if you had to replace or rebuild the transmission? Or hell, just what if you had to replace fuel injectors on those things? It's stupid expensive, equivalent to the battery. Uh, and so that kind of cancels out if you're in the territory of that type of truck. And then you just factor in what's the maintenance cost and maintenance time and cost. If you're using it for business, well, taking time out of your day to go do a maintenance on your vehicles, I mean, that's time spent doing something where you could have spent it making money. And that's where the Cybertruck makes the most sense, because it cuts down on gas station stops. It cuts down on, you don't have any oil changes, any of those types of maintenances. And you equate it out to all those things, it's so much cheaper than what, your, like I said, your non-dually Cummins, Power Stroke Duramax is going to be. And I think when people start to kind of like catch on that and go, oh,
Oh, wait, I'm not doing
makes
this.
money. Yeah,
Oh,
it
wait,
makes
I'm not
money
doing
sense.
this.
That
Oh my God, this thing's never out of service for me.
yeah, like that's it. It will eventually take over, in which I then falls back to the point that I was kind of making with the pull through chargers, is like they kind of missed the hit, or they missed the mark on that, because when that does happen, that's going to be the hinge point that people are
So
be
it's
like, I
it's the
would get
limiting
one.
factor right now,
Yeah.
probably.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Like they could be selling twice as many of these if they had pull through chargers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, giddy up, lean in,
Oh
and
yeah.
watch what happens. Because a lot of people are like, "Yeah, I can't tow with it."
Yep. Yeah, and that's really that is the only hiccup, or not. That's the only drawback to the Cybertruck currently, is if you're wanting to do long range towing, it's going to be a pain.
Oh,
But everything else, it does better in basically every regard. Like there's nothing else that the truck doesn't outperform in.
right, nifty. Well, this is a neighbor of mine's. Looks pretty awesome.
Oh, that's nice.
And look at it. Look at how cool his house is.
It matches the house.
It
I like it.
matches the house. It's really, really awesome. So,
I would have I mean, I've had a bunch of people tell me that that my truck looks way better wrapped than what it does just the stainless steel look. But I mean, I definitely like the wrap, but I still kind of like how the regular stainless steel looks. That it still has that industrious look.
yeah,
Like it looks
particularly
more
when
like
it
a
gets
work truck.
dirty, it looks like
Yeah,
a work truck.
yeah, I like that. Which if they had if you could take the stainless steel look but make it dark, like if you had that black but just it being that you see the grains of the stainless steel,
Right.
that would be what I would prefer looks wise. If it wasn't going to be, business branded, that's exactly what I would do.
Yeah, I think you did a great job with that branding. Such a nice. It looks so nice.
Mm-hmm.
Gonna have to figure out how to do HVAC20 on one of these. 2 years. 2 years. I think 2 years I'll be ready. All right. Bedtime.
Well, that it is.
Thank you, folks, for coming. If
Thanks,
there are any-
everybody.
says there are some people watching. I don't know. There weren't any comments.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, we'll catch y'all in 2 weeks, and see you then.
Thanks for coming.